Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Amarachi Jennifer. In this video, I'll be showing you how to cut a 6-piece skirt without pattern. So if it's something you're interested in, please keep on watching, and if you have not yet subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you can be notified when I post my next video. So let's get started. So guys, the first thing I'm going to do is to fold my fabric into two. You can see the way I folded mine. So you have to fold the center of your fabric where you're starting your measurements. It has to be on fold. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to measure the full length of my skirt, which is 42 inches. So the full length of my skirt I'm using is 42 inches. I'm going to mark it, and the next thing I'm going to do is to mark my hip line, which is 8 inches. Please guys, your hip line is going to depend on your own, so mine is 8 inches. The next thing I'm going to mark is my half knee. That's my knee length, which is the length from your waist to above your knee. Mine is 22 inches. Then I'll go ahead and make a straight line on it. Make a straight line on the waistline, and then also I'll make a straight line on the hip line and also on the half knee line so that my measurements can be accurate. So guys, the first part of this skirt we're going to be cutting out is the center front. So to determine the width of my center front, I'm going to be needing my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 7 inches, and then I'm going to divide it into two, which is 3.5 inches, and I'll be adding half inch for allowance, which will make it 4 inches. I'll mark it at my waistline down all the way down to my hip line. I'll mark it at my hip line also, and then I'll connect it to my waistline. So guys, I'll head over to my half knee and I'll mark 3.5 inches. Remember, our nipple to nipple is 7 inches, which is 3.5. I'm not going to be adding the half inch allowance I added at the waistline. This is in order to get the curve that you usually see at the half knee to form the flare. So guys, I'm going to connect it to the hip line. So guys, I'm done connecting my measurement, and the next thing I'm going to measure is the width of my flare. How wide I want my flare to be, that's what I'm going to measure right now. So for me, I want mine to be 10 inches. You can decide to make yours lower or bigger depending on how full you want your skirt to be. So for me, I'm making mine 10 inches because I want it to be not to be too big and not to be too small. So you can decide to make yours too big or too small depending on how you want. So right now I'm going to connect my half knee to my hem to the end of my measurement, which is the 10 inches that I measured. You can see how I'm doing it, guys. So I'm connecting it to my half knee. So guys, that's all for measuring out the center front of our skirt. It's actually very simple. So I'm going to cut it out now. So guys, I'm done cutting out the center front of this skirt, and the next thing we are going to be cutting out is our side front. But before then, you are going to pin down the center front that you just cut out, because you are going to be using it to cut out the side front. This is in order not to scatter or shift when you are cutting it out. So I folded my fabric into two, and the next thing I'm going to do is to measure the down part. So I'm going to measure my down part. Remember, I used 10 inches for the center front. So when you expand it, it's going to be 20 inches. So I'm going to be making sure that what I folded is up to 20 inches before I start placing my center front. So guys, I'm going to place my center front this way. You can see the way I'm doing it. You're going to be placing it this way because I'll be tracing out the sides, the part that we just cut out. We are going to be tracing it out on the side front to use it to cut out the middle part of it. Remember, you're going to be joining this skirt at the middle, so you have to make sure that the middle part of the sides and the sides of the center front are of the same shape. I hope you understand what I mean. So you're going to be making sure they are of the same shape so that your sewing will be neat, so you don't have to be cutting another shape by the sides, so that it won't give you a different shape. So I'll go ahead right now and trace the sides of the center front to the side of the side fronts that we have placed. Guys, I hope you understand what I'm doing. So I'm going to be tracing it this way. You can see what I'm doing. So guys, I'm done tracing out the sides of my skirt. So right now I'm going to cut it out. After cutting it, the next thing I'm going to do is to measure my hip line, which is 8 inches. So I'll mark my 8 inches, and then I also mark out my half knee, which is 22 inches. So I'm going to mark it out also, and I'm going to draw a straight line as well in order to avoid any mistakes. I'm done marking out my hip line and my half knee, and then the top part is my waistline. So the waist measurement I'm using is 28 inches. I'm going to be dividing it by 4, which is 7 inches. So guys, please pay attention the way I'm going to measure this part, so you can be able to grab what I'm doing. I'm going to be minusing the 4 inches I added at the center front, the 4 inches I used to measure my center front, which is my nipple to nipple, and I'm going to mark my 7 inches plus 1 inch allowance, which will make it 8 inches. Then I'm also going to add my extra closing allowance, which is 2.5 inches. Remember, we are cutting this directly at the fabric, so I'm going to be adding my 2.5 inch allowance. I'll also go ahead to my hip line and do the same. I'm going to be minusing the 4 inches. My hip measurement is 38 inches. Divided by 4 is going to be 9.5. So I'm going to be placing my tape the same way, minusing the 4 inches. And then I'll be marking my 9.5 inch, which is my hip measurement. And then I'll be adding extra 1 inch allowance also, which is 10.5. And then after then, I'm also going to mark my 2.5 inches closing allowance. After that, I'm going to be measuring the measurement I have at my hip line, from the center of the measurement to the part I ended it. I'm going to measure it. I have 8.5, so I'm going to be minusing 1 inch, which will make it 7.5, and I'm going to measure it at the half knee, that is to tighten it. So if you want yours to be more fitted, you can minus 1.5 inch. So I'll head over to the hemline and I'm going to measure my 20 inches. Remember, that's what we got earlier, because that's what we used to measure the center front. So I'm going to go ahead and join my measurements. You can see the way I'm joining it. You can see the way I'm doing it, guys. So I'll go ahead and join my measurements from the waistline to the hip line. Then I'll connect to the half knee, to the measurement I have at my half knee. So guys, if you want to tighten yours at the half knee, you can minus 1.5 from what you got from your hip line. So I made my 1 inch because I don't want it to be too tight. So I'm going to connect it to the down part, which is to the 20 inches I measured, which is the width of my flare. So I'm going to smoothen my curve at the half knee. So guys, that's all for the cutting of the side part of this 6-piece skirt. It's very simple, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it out right now. So I'm done cutting out my side part. I've also gone ahead to cut out the other part. Remember, it's going to be 4 pieces because you're going to be having 2 at the front and 2 at the back. It's all the same measurement, guys, so the only difference is the center front and the center back because of the zip allowance. So right now I'm going to cut out my center back. I'm going to use the center front to cut it out. I'm only going to add my zipper allowance, which is 1.5 inches. So I've done placing it, so I'm going to cut it out right now. So guys, this skirt is actually very simple. I'm done cutting it out, so I've gone ahead to open it. I've separated it because you know it's going to have a zipper. So guys, that's all for the cutting of this skirt. It's very simple. Please, if you like it, don't forget to subscribe and give it a thumbs up. See you in my next video. Bye.